Hi, everyone, and welcome to the second panel of CE Innovation Stream in the frame of Wolf Summit in cooperation with Podium DX. We have a wonderful panel ahead of us with really interesting and challenging and inspiring task to do. And this is how we can inspire current and future generations of corporate innovators, leaders, and policymakers. With us is Nina Urbanic from Slovene Enterprise Fund. Hi, Nina. With us is Markus from Startup Austria. Hi, Markus.
Hi, Urban.
With us is Gregor Rebol from Silicon Gardens Fund 2. Hi, Gregor.
Hello. Hey, Urban.
Hi. Tatiana Zabasumikor from South Central Ventures. Hi, Tatiana.
Hello, everyone.
And Maria Dimitrievich from Dwelt Software, from also the podium winner of this year pitching competition. Hi, Maria, and hope you're well.
Hi, thank you. Really well, thanks.
All right, so I think I'm happy that we have all smiles on our face because we will need it for tackling this challenge that is ahead of us. So the first inspiring questions that would really, demand really short answer from all of you is, if you would have to choose one person that has inspired you the most lately, who would you pick and why? Really short answers, please. And starting with Nina.
Sorry, I can't pick one person. It would have to be our founders because the last 2 years have been really, really difficult for startups. Just tackling everything that was thrown at them. I think that was really inspiring to watch for me.
All right, thank you. Really good. Thank you, Gregor.
Yeah, I agree with that answer. So I also chose founders because, the ones that have the guts and ambition to really start global companies, because that's what defines our ecosystems.
Thank you. Markus?
I would probably pick the founders of BioNTech because in some way, I think it's been quite a moonshot how quickly we got those vaccines. And you could also obviously mention Moderna, but since I'm European and we need European moonshots, I'll pick the founders of BioNTech.
Great. Thank you. Maria?
So I also cannot choose one and pick one. It comes down to family, friends, books, podcasts. It can be anything. But I can say that since Podium, I've met a lot of young people that are keen to become entrepreneurs, that are already entrepreneurs. So I would probably pick them.
Okay, thank you. Dana?
Well, I guess we're very unified in this. I guess I get inspired by founders every day, I would say, and it's been like that for quite a few years now. So lots of problems coming their way, and I admire them to see how they're tackling all that.
Right. So it's really good that we are all really coherent and in the aim, or what should we look at when we see or seek for the inspiration for the future entrepreneurs and generations. So the founders, of course, are the foundation of every ecosystem. And the ecosystem in CE is, of course, we have a lot of momentum right now. Also, the lately CE report from Atomico is really positive. All the numbers, or the KPIs, basically are really green in a way, if I use these terms. And again, the question would be, what do you think is one element, really one element that we should keep as it is in the ecosystem? And now when I say ecosystem, it could be ecosystem of your country or your region, pick anyone you want. So what should be the one element of the ecosystem that really should we keep as it is in order to maintain this momentum and even accelerate it? So what is already working perfectly, and we should keep it and focus on another thing. So what should be this one thing that we should keep to keep this momentum growing? And I'll reverse the order and start with Tatiana.
Yeah, I'd say, well, you already said it, actually. We need the founders, right, to keep going. And I think it's this mindset that, that you have to create something, and that it's cool to be entrepreneur, to start your own company. I think this is I guess it's a result of many other things, but definitely that's the key element in this.
At the first fireside chat, a sub question for you, Tatiana. You have I have a opening fireside with Cristobal Alonso from Startup Wise Guide, and he mentioned, of course, that he sees that we have, of course, this legacy of business oriented or business mindset or marketing mindset in compared to, let's say, Western part of the world. And he mentioned that he sees this mindset keep getting better, keep increasing, right? Do you see this? You have, of course, an excellent overview of the region. Would you agree that our funders are getting better and better, also, and in this business skill set that it's needed to make a big, really moonshot story?
Yeah, I think this is changing. Actually, I wouldn't say this has traditionally been the case here in let's say, our narrower region. Not in the sense of being very confident that you can make big stories and this really breakthrough things. But I think there's always been a lot of knowledge, a lot of well, on one side, a lot of knowledge in various areas in terms of technologies, and on the other side, also a lot of this sort of instinct for survival. So people were always trying to, create something and be a bit creative in finding ways around things or doing things and all this. But I think maybe just, this dreaming big and really have a great ambition to do something that's globally successful. Maybe that wasn't the case all the time, but I think it's improving lately, definitely.
Right. Thanks for the feedback. So back to my second question. So what the one thing that we should keep in the ecosystem, Maria, that would to maintain this momentum?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, the spotlight is really on us. It's been very good in 2021, especially. I also read the article from Deal Room, which said that VC investments here in the CEE region are breaking record in this year. So this is something great that we need to keep in mind. And but when it comes to one element, I think it's the belief that it's possible to create a startup from the regions, from the CEE region, that can operate and function on a global level. Because at the end of the day, we have a pool of talent. There is some confidence. There are obviously founders, not enough, but there are people who decide to take a risk, and they do have some kind of a confidence in order to start their own company. And then at the end, what you talked about with the Startup Wise guys, just recently, I think it was one of the panels, it's that hunger for success. I think we have that in us in these regions, and we definitely need to use that in order to improve, grow, and build more successful stories.
Really good. Thank you. Marcus, same question with you.
Difficult to answer because there's this saying that in startups, if you take your foot off the pedal, the default gear is not neutral but reverse. So I think it's very dangerous to pick any part where we can now just say, okay, let's not do anything here anymore. So I think we always have to improve. But from an Austrian perspective, I would say one thing where we are in a good position is that we have a great if you look at the standard of living and the costs of living and you compare that, I think that's a very attractive environment. That would make it quite attractive to attract talent here if you would also work on the regulatory environment. But generally, I think the conditions there are a good environment.
Thank you. Gregor?
Well, what I would pick is actually this, this cycle that keeps going on. Founder creates a company, the company is successful, and he either exits or, has excess capital, and he invests that into startups, so becomes an angel. So that's a cycle that I think we should keep moving. Now even more with more and more successes out of the CEE region. I think that's going to help a lot, because if you look at just statistically speaking, if you look at the successful companies, most of them actually come out of previous successes, so previous successful stories. So I think that's something that we can build on.
Mm-hmm. So statistically, CE has 10 unicorns valued to more than $30 billion, I think. So and also new exits and new big stories are popping up. And I think what you mentioned, Gregor, is also really related also to what Maria and Tatiana mentioned. So staying hunger and having examples of that really that big stories could be made out of this region that maybe was not in place in, let's say, previous decade, if I may use this time period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nina, your shot on that question.
Yeah, I think that in Slovenia in particular, which is basically the only environment I really know, we do have quite good development, like support programs for startups, which you are also a part of, and the whole ecosystem is quite well developed. But we do focus on what is missing, and what is missing at the moment in Slovenia is definitely financing. So I would say a big part of creating this environment is just getting financed for startups. So this is something that we really need to work on, especially early stage and VC financing in Slovenia at the moment.
So you already answered my third question, but I'll go back to my second. So what should be? So environment is good, and getting rid of. I mean, what is missing, or in essentially is maybe is early stage financing to really get there. So the last, big round of questions and answer is the opposite of the first one. So if there's one thing that is we should keep, what is the one thing that we should get rid of, or really like radically change, in order to, let's say, even more accelerate the momentum in the ecosystem? So, and pick anyone from it. So I'll start with Gregor, and then Marcus, Maria, Tatiana, and Nina. Gregor, so one thing we should get rid of, or really radically change, in order to maintain and accelerate this momentum?
Well, there's lots of things that we could change, even though I actually prefer the logic that you work in a certain system, just work with that, and hopefully you'll move things that to the better. So of course it would be great if we would have any tax breaks for investors, legal option for stock options, proper taxation, remote notary services, things like that. But maybe on the promotion side, I think also the acceptance, or more the that people will be more ready to talk about their successes. So we can talk about different investments out of our follow-on investments in our portfolio, and most of these companies, they don't really want to promote their investments, because I wouldn't say that sort of that they would get negative publicity in media, because I wouldn't say that, but it just gathers sort of some unwanted attention, I guess. It's not needed, right? And that's something that I would wish that wouldn't be there, so that we would talk more about our successes.
All right, so we would be more like a, I don't know, Gary Vaynerchuk, pushing and promoting and shouting out how great we are. And all right, thanks. Marcus, what's your shot on that?
I think we need more entrepreneurs at the top of the funnel. I really believe we need more startups, and I think we are missing out on some of the best potential entrepreneurs out there. And for that, it needs a cultural change. I believe, actually, at least from an Austrian perspective, but maybe that corresponds to the whole region, we're quite good at complaining, which is factually identifying problems. But we're missing out on this next step of actually thinking, hey, I could change that. I could provide a solution to it. And I think that's an educational topic that we really need to tackle.
All right. tackling the educational culture topic related. Thanks. Tatiana?
Yeah, I would actually agree with both in Gregor and Marcus. I think there's a lot to be done on actually this ambition and just not being satisfied too quickly, or just finding the problems without really thinking on how you can tackle them. And yeah, I think just this sort of too modest entrepreneurs are not okay, and those that actually get to their comfort zone and they feel it's okay. So I mean, this ambition that needs to be there, so not just saying I'm fine.
All right, cool. So we need to get rid of this, being fine with 1 million revenue. We should get rid of that mentality and be even more ambitious in a way.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Cool. Maria?
Yeah, so my idea and thinking relates a little bit to Marcus and to Tatiana. Basically, what I feel is that people here think that you need like some revolutionary idea in order to become a successful startup. I think there's a lot of opportunity in those small innovators and small ideas that can actually change the perceptions, bring some new ideas that are not revolutionary, but they are still meaningful and they can benefit the ecosystem. And then what I see quite a lot is outsourcing versus making your own product. I think it's very important that young people start to take risks and start making their own products instead of building outsourcing companies. That's something that especially in Bosnia I see a lot, and I think that's a problem.
So get out of this safety net and build something on your own instead of doing loan business. Right, great point. Thank you very much for that. Marcus, you at Austrian Startups, you set an ambitious goal when you changed the role this year, and you have really like a great motto or mission in Austrian Startups. So startups should be as common as skiing in Austria, which is I love this. I love this. And it's what are the goals that you have, and why did you redefine your goals in Austrian Startups? And what does the leadership and inspiration play in this strategy?
Yeah, you mentioned it. The vision is really to become leading when it comes to entrepreneurship, and one of the few things where we are leading in Austria is actually skiing, and that's, you can see that at the Olympics, but it starts very early. It starts when in school we have school skiing courses where whole classes go to learn skiing, and that means everybody can try it out. Doesn't mean that everybody becomes a professional skier, but you open the funnel, and that's what we're trying with entrepreneurship too. So we're now in 70 schools all over Austria and doing entrepreneurship weeks, where the idea is that pupils can learn, can actually try out founding something. In a week we do with them, where we analyze problems, develop ideas, develop prototypes, business models, and obviously at the end there's pitching, and that just should give them a taste. And this will be a focus for us to really tackle education. At the same time, for sure, it's also about the public perception of entrepreneurs, of startups, because what we've seen now in 8 years of trying to create some political change, to create a better environment for startups, is that it's very difficult to get through all the different special interest groups, all the different particular interests of people projecting their personal interests, because startups itself, they are such a small group of voters. For a politician, there's very little carrot there if they give something to the startup scene. So I think what you would have to do is change the public perception of it, so that politicians also get that incentive where everybody in Austria, everybody in CEE says we need to become better at providing an environment for entrepreneurs, providing an environment for startups, because then you can start to increase the pressure on politicians. As long as there is not this public perception, as long there won't be any leverage in discussions with politicians.
In the first panel, as I already mentioned, Cristobal mentioned that Estonia has reached 80% of taxation's income comes from startups already. So that makes them like a relevant economic category also for the policymakers to taking into the account of when considering the future, let's say, direction of these different changes. Do you maybe know how much is this percentage in Austria? And second questions on that. So you set the goals. What are the goals and what is the term of these goals for your strategy?
So first of all, I don't know the percentage, but I know the numbers itself. So I know that there's more than 20,000 jobs being created by startups in Austria. I know that the growth of startups has, or like the revenue of startups have doubled over the last years on a yearly basis. So it's become a real growth motor for the economy. But I'm pretty sure we're not where Estonia is already, where it's the strong force of the economy, mostly because we have an existing industry that was quite strong, or still is quite strong. Maybe that's also the weakness, that it still is quite strong, and therefore still has lots of interest to protect, still has less of an incentive to push new industries. So this constant trade-off is something that probably Estonia is much better than us. And in terms of goals, my goal is that every young person who grows up has the chance to try out how it feels to start something on their own. That's the main mission, because I think once you've tried that out, you have a much better impression of what it means. It's not then shaped by TV shows that are unrealistic. You feel that, and I think that's what it really, really needs.
So this first-hand experience of starting
Yes.
something from the scratch on your own. Cool. Really nice, noble. Hope you succeed, really. Gregor, based on the performance of your portfolio company of Silicon Gardens Fund, inspiration is definitely not missing, right? And great stories. How to transfer or spill over this momentum to the wider ecosystem, not only Slovenia, but also the regional speaking?
I would also touch on goals first, and I think I completely agree with Marcus. So I really like those goals. And what we can do here is, we can promote these stories for two reasons. So one is giving motivation and courage to other people that, maybe are just considering starting something. And two, with every success, we're also raising the bar, what is something that's sort of attainable, achievable, what's, let's say, normal, right? So that's something that we just need to continue, promote, so that people actually consider this as an option.
All right, perfect. Tatiana, diversity in all forms is also, still missing in the ecosystem. And what is the hardest nut to crack on this topic, and why? What change could would make the biggest impact on the ecosystem regarding the inspiration of future founders related to diversity?
Yeah, I guess the situation as it is, so the lack of this diversity actually is not something that happened overnight, right? This is something that's sort of ingrained in every aspect of our lives, I would say, even. And the diversity comes in very different forms, right? There are very different types of diversity, and the most I guess one of those types of diversity that's discussed the most lately is probably gender bias, gender diversity in startups, among investors and all that. So, but this is just one part, right? The diversity means also like, that you have people with different points of view, and you have like, like clashes between these kind of things. And this is what actually makes the environment creative, and lack of diversity definitely doesn't contribute to it, to have more creative environment. But as I said, it's something that has not happened overnight, right? It's something that's been developing for a long time, and I guess this is also the reason why it's so difficult to overcome that, because it's somehow ingrained, I guess, in everybody also, like and it takes quite some time, and this would not be like you cannot change things overnight, and it takes a while, and probably the changes are not all that visible. So it's kind of, what needs to be there is persistence, and like really, I think a big part of it is already that we are talking about it, that we're aware of the problem or the challenge that we have. And yeah, I guess it has to, I mean, it's a cultural change, right? So it's definitely takes a lot of small steps to
But you're not only talking about the diversity, but you're also taking an active role in changing, at least in the VC industry. You're really active in this field, pushing forward and this topic and the importance. Can you tell us a little bit more about on this?
Yeah, this is a particular topic of gender diversity. In our case, I guess, like maybe US, you have like this racial diversity, which is much more, let's say, problematic than it is here, for example. But like on this gender diversity, all the research shows that, there are significantly less female founders, and on the other side, also very small percentages of female investors. And this sort of are supposed to go hand in hand. Like, so the assumption is that with more female investors, you also get more female founders financed through, let's say, VC funds or VC financing in general. And this is, I think a lot has been done also on the level of the commission in both areas. Actually, female founders maybe have been in spotlight for a few years now, and there are quite a few changes. Like, for example, I'm also participating in European Innovation Council and EIC Accelerator and the projects that are financed through these programs. And there were, like last year, for example, like 50% of projects were all had like female founders. And I think what we are trying to do now is also change the situation also on the side of investors by trying to promote also let's say at least mixed teams, right? Not female, because like what I think is like you cannot tackle the problem of like lack of women among entrepreneurs or investors by, sort of changing the bias towards the other end, right? It's not good to support only women, but like I strongly believe in diversity, which means mixed teams, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, and we are trying to sort of also get some support for this type of activities on the level of the commission.
Great. Thanks. I hope you get even more support than you have to really change this important issue that's, of course, really much connected to the topic that we are discussing today. So inspiring the future generations of entrepreneurs. Marcus, by any chance, are there many? Which gender has more successes in skiing in Austria, men's or women's?
We are thankfully good in both genders there. That would be bad if we would have the same problems there. But also in Austria, from a perspective, I think we've made progress here. I remember when I came into Austrian startups 5 years ago, we were really at the bottom when it came to female founder ratios, and now we are one of the top countries here, and that's very much due to a few initiatives here popping up who really focus on the topic, who create a space for female entrepreneurs where they can exchange. So namely, it's female founders and female factor, two organizations that really push that topic. And I think we've become much better in this field. Still a long way to go, because it's still only 18% of founders that are female, and only a third of the starting teams in Austria have at least one female founder. But yeah, things at least are moving in the right direction here.
Right, this is a positive sign. Perfect. Maria, you are a perfect example of that kind of team. You were also, as already mentioned, the winner of this year's podium competition. Do you think that this achievement will have an impact on inspiring future entrepreneurs in your city, region, country?
Mm-hmm. So absolutely. I mean, from our own experience from Dualt, what happened after podium was just absolutely incredible. Even myself, during the competition, I really didn't, I didn't feel it would go that far, since it was our first time at podium. So we were just there, to bring awareness to the company, but then we brought the biggest awareness possible. So that was great. I think it will definitely change, since, for example, here not many people have heard about podium, have heard about a conference, that it exists in our region, that you can apply, that you can maybe succeed getting your company in the conference, pitching and all that. So I think brought, first of all, the awareness of voting, and then I think in a way we set a good example of a company. I think a lot of people have heard about Dwelt after podium, and I think that's very important, especially in our country. Serbia is much stronger, also not enough strong for, in the entrepreneurship world and startups, but it's much stronger compared to us. We're really beginner level of startups. So that was a good thing. And I think, as I said, we set a good example, in a way telling people, okay, they've done it, it's possible, maybe, I can do it with my idea in the future. So that's one good thing that came out of podium, really. And the media really covered all of it in terms of social media, newspaper, television. We were all over the place. And I think that helped. And then we were part of entrepreneurship program for young people, where Stefan, the founder, he was the jury member. And that was also very helpful, to empower people, to give them advice. They had some pretty good ideas in that program. Majority of those ideas could, become successful businesses. So I think we played a good role there in that process.
Tell me, how many people do knock on your door or write you an email or and ask you for advice, or do pitch you an idea and ask you for an opinion? Is this something that is like a commonly happens on this on regular basis, or is this like super rare event?
Very, very rare. Unfortunately, very, very rare. Almost none of the people, they are always shy. There's just some block that they need to overcome. But what we do on our side, we go to the local universities. So I've been to one class of entrepreneurship at the University of Economics here. So I gave them a bit of a presentation of what we do, how my journey went, how did I come to Dualt. And afterwards, some of the students contacted me, and I told them, my door is always open. You can always ask me questions, because I was a student once, and I know how difficult it is. So that's we try to give some initiative, because we don't get it from the other side, unfortunately.
But this is, I think, a common problem, this, introverted, held back, shy position of not asking the question or not asking for advice because, of the fear that, it could be, like a dumb question or something like that. So I would ask every one of you for if you have any idea how how to change this. I mean, even could be like a small thing. So going into the classes, talking, and showing that you are like a real, human being like everyone else. That it's and present yourself. This is one thing. Any other ideas? How we can make this more openly, more commonly? So starting with I don't know, Nina and Gregor, Marcus. Nina.
So I think in Europe in particular, but especially in this region, we have a sort of fear of failure, which is still very strong. In America, failure is just a learning opportunity. And they also, like if a company fails, okay, you learn something, you go on, build maybe a better company. Whereas here, it's sort of the end, and people are not taking risk because they have this fear of failure, which is also culturally just viewed far more negatively than I think in America. I'm not certain, but I see that perspective is a bit different.
Okay, thanks. Gregor?
Yeah, I agree with that. So, and I would add to this, I think, just basic confidence and ambition. That's something that we need to work on. How do we get confidence into these new founders? There's, one statistics, at least, from my eyes, how I saw it from the report that I think everybody mentioned before, the CE report, where Slovenia, for example, the startups per capita wasn't that bad, right? It was an okay number, but venture, the actual funding was sort of low, right? Lower than other countries. And you could say, sure, there's lack of capital, which absolutely we should increase that. But the other way of looking at it is also, how many really ambitious companies we have, right? On one side, it's okay that you start safe, that you start, or you're confident and then you build and you grow with your company. But still, you need to pick a certain market or a certain challenge that can grow, right? So, and that's something that it would be great that we would have some sort of a mechanism, or that people actually already filter these smaller or less ambitious ideas out, and maybe wait a little bit longer, think a little bit longer, and then when they find something that's really ambitious, act on it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thanks, Marcus.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I think this is a huge problem we have in Europe, that we in some way limit people to think really big. I'm in a few juries for accelerator program / awards, and I always clash in these juries because there's certain members in there who, typical situation, old university professor, and there's a startup coming in and they have a really bold vision. And then in the jury meeting, he starts, never gonna happen. That's completely unrealistic. And the whole room, it's also the group dynamic in such a jury. The whole room, okay, if the professor says that, then it probably really can't happen. And this is so wrong, and it gives the wrong message to the people out there that they should limit their dreaming, that they should limit their thinking. And I think that's something that we really need to change, because also a problem we have that comes from the education system, we are extremely authority driven. We're looking for the people to tell us, lots of university entrepreneurs that I meet, they are in some way, they are shopping for feedback. They're going to one investor and he gives advice, and then they do exactly what he said. And then another investor says something completely different, so they do what he says. So it's this strong belief that you have to work on, that you have to nurture, and that should not be held back by any kind of people telling you it's not going to work.
Yeah, really good point. Tatiana, you would like to
Yeah,
add
actually,
something?
yeah, I was nodding if you may have seen it, but like what Marcus just said is just like the thing that I think is the most problematic also. Like, yeah, the education itself, like mainly what we are trying to do here is just teach people how to do things the way they were done before, rather than challenge them to maybe do things differently. And I think there's probably still too much of some judgmental attitude, so like Marcus said, when somebody comes with a really bold idea and then everybody's not going to happen. So it's like, and then I guess that results in this lack of ambition and, you know, people not thinking big because they're just like told too many times that, you know, they shouldn't be too daring. And I think, yeah, I mean, you need to be convinced in what you're doing. And this is one of the important things. You need to be you, and you need to sort of, if you believe there's an opportunity, then you should go after it, right? And do it the way you think is right, not just, you know, if you're also like gathering too many opinions from the others. I mean, if you have like a different approach to things, it might work, right? So try to make it work and you know, make the success out of it.
Yeah, great point. Absolutely agree. Nina, so many changes in the ecosystem are related to policymakers. Also, some comments in today's discussion are referred to it. So inspiration and leadership is also super important in our organizations like yours. So based on your experience, what is the best recipe to build great motivated teams like yours in Slovene Enterprise Fund? So,
well, thank you for implying we're a great team. It would be presumptuous to say we know how to do it. Since I'm working with startups, I appreciate luck far more than before. It's a huge sort of element of success, I think. But what helps is that we're constantly in touch with founders. We work with companies, so you know what you're doing. You see the stories, the people behind it. So we're not in an ivory tower, just pushing paper. We work with people, and this is what motivates us and what makes us what we are and what we do.
So the way should be also to put more people from your colleagues in touch with people on the ground, with entrepreneurs, to get this inspirational virus and positive
and the
energy and
feedback.
mentality and the faith. Yeah. Okay, great. So moving to end of our discussions, we're already we have 7 minutes left. We already discussed a lot of ideas about the pros and cons and what could we do, the ecosystem, the founders, the education, the things we can tackle. So now to wrap it up, maybe to really make concrete ending to this discussion, maybe actionable also in a way. So the beginning question is how we can inspire more entrepreneurs, and the question for all you would be, so one change in the ecosystem, no limitation set, that would inspire more people and organization in the ecosystem, that change, that thing, that job, this would be what? Really concrete and again, no limitation, money, anything. So feel free for the moonshots, to get some moonshots. I'll start with Gregor, Nina, and then Marcus, Maria, and Tatiana. So moonshots, Gregor, moonshots.
Well, I think the one thing that we all wish would be more of is the confidence, right? So, and I think that's sort of the biggest change in the ecosystem. How do we achieve that? One, of course, promoting the ones that actually already did go through the path, that path, or we could also view it the other way, that we could sort of minimize, maybe also showing all the mistakes that were made, and that it's okay. We just need to survive and move on, and it's way worse if you don't try something than it is if you try and fail and then survive to do something else. Right?
Great, thanks, Nina.
Well, to be honest, I would love for startups to be able to go to the European market, which would be sort of a true common market, like in an American style. Like if anybody could just go through and speak English, that would be great. Like we have a lot of founders going to American market and not going to Austrian or German market, because it means the whole language barrier, the whole way of making business just sort of limiting. So I think the European market could do more for startups to be able to just grow on the market in a more simple manner with less costs.
Okay, great. So more common, simple way to common market in Europe, similar to US. Marcus?
I'll give you three. The first one, as an addition to Nina, I think something that would help us really build this common single market is if English would be accepted as an official language in every EU country. The second one, I mean, this is all additional to the skiing course for entrepreneurship that I already talked about. The second one, I think we need a more realistic media perspective on startups. I think at the moment, if you look at the TV shows that usually are successful in this space, the Shark Tank clones, they give a rather unrealistic view of what it means to start something, because you just see then this pitch and you see the money and you don't see the whole substance of the iceberg, all the work that flows behind. So I would like to work on a TV series that shows you the journey of an entrepreneur, which manages to be entertaining and educative at the same time. And the third one, I would like to introduce a founder scholarship. So I think everybody should have in their life the ability to, let's say, 2 times for half a year to get a state-sponsored scholarship where they don't have to worry about their living costs, but can focus on trying out an idea without having to take the increased risk, especially in later stages of your life, once you have a family, where it's really tough to leave your job for something that's insecure. And we have that for education. At least in Austria, we have these education scholarships, but there should be something similar for founding something.
You already have some sort of, these elements in place with your in Austrian startups, that kind of ideas regarding this entrepreneurial scholarship or startup scholarship.
Yeah, we've put that forward to the government, but it's not been put in place yet.
Okay. Patience. Maria and Tatiana, so same question. So Magic's take one change, no limitation set.
I would pick knowledge. We are covering quite well the technical knowledge, but we lack business knowledge. And for that, we need more business angels and more VCs in the region so they can pour their knowledge into founders' ideas and their startups. So yeah, that's what I would pick. But I like a lot what Gregor said. Confidence is, I think, a main thing that we need.
Okay, we need a startup with some sort of magic potion to boost our confidence. So we'll work on that. Tatiana.
Actually, I think it's celebrating the ones that actually make it, but at the same time, also not, well, to a certain extent, celebrating those who don't and actually learn from it and move on. And I love the idea of Marcus about this scholarship. I mean, some kind of security network that you need for those who have tried and have not succeeded yet. So I guess there's like a combination of things that need to be done. It's hard to pick just one.
Right, excellent ideas. I loved all of them. So we have many ideas on the table, many concrete suggestions that now we should roll our sleeves and get on work and make the future ecosystem even more inspiring. And I think also one important takeout from this session is also that each of us is having like a really important role, not only as an individual, but also as an organization to put our piece of the puzzle in this broader picture that needs to be changed, that is basically increasing and being better, but needs to be also further developed and increased. Thank you very much for the discussion, and especially for all the work and effort you do in your organizations and you as a person to change the ecosystem for the better and to make it really a better place for future generations of entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Nice day, and see you around.
Thank you.